Hello, my friends, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor. Now, today we're going to be talking about an author who was the most popular writer in Weird Tales magazine. The legendary Weird Tales magazine. This author was the most popular month after month in Weird Tales magazine. So, am I talking about Clark Ashton Smith? No. Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan? No. H.P. Lovecraft, the legendary H.P. Lovecraft who changed horror fiction forever? No, not him either. No, the most popular writer in Weird Tales magazine month after month was Seabury Quinn, the creator of Jules de Grandin. So, you might have heard the name Seabury Quinn bandied about by various critics and people who wrote about weird tales and maybe in the introductions to books about H.P. Lovecraft or other writers at the time. You might have come across the name Seabury Quinn. Usually, what these folks have to say about Seabury Quinn is not very flattering. S.T. Joshi has called Seabury Quinn a hack and has insinuated that he's deservedly forgotten. And that seems to be about right. Time after time, you will hear people say things like, or critics, you'll hear them say things like, you know, Weird Tales magazine had a lot of terrible stuff in it too, you know, like those stories by Seabury Quinn. But H.P. Lovecraft, oh. Now, of course, I agree with every positive thing they have to say about H.P. Lovecraft. But here's the thing. Seabury Quinn, he's not as bad as people say he was. And I discovered this many years ago. Some of the Jules de Grandin stories were published in paperback, and they were rare, man. They were hard to find. This is before the whole internet thing where you can just like get on your phone and order like any book that's ever been published ever. Back then it was a bit tougher to find books by obscure authors, which Seabury Quinn he counted. But his Jules de Grandin stories, a lot of them were published in paperback in one series at least. And I happened to find one of these books, and I recognized the name from introductions that spoke badly about him. And I thought, you know what the heck, I'll give it a try. And you know what, I really liked it. They were entertaining. They were not great. I mean, we're not talking about great fiction here. No, it's straight pulpy pulp fiction. You know, that kind of thing. But entertaining. I enjoyed it. I liked Seabury Quinn. I liked Jules de Grandin. Was there something wrong with me? Well, probably. But I did like Seabury Quinn, and I did like his character Jules de Grandin. Now, Jules de Grandin is the classic supernatural investigator. He is French and speaks what I can only imagine in my head as a really bad French accent. I mean, we're talking about Pepe Le Pew style French accent. That's just how he is in my head from the way he talks in these stories. Because he's over the top, this guy. Yeah, and so he was a paranormal investigator. And he came to Harrisonville, New Jersey, where Dr. Trowbridge lived. Now, Dr. Trowbridge ended up being, he's like this stodgy old Republican guy who ended up being best friends with Jules de Grandin. So he became Watson. You know, he's the guy who's telling you the stories of his pal, Jules de Grandin, who is basically, the way he's described is very close to being a blonde, blue-eyed Perot. You know, that kind of detective. He's even got the mustache, everything. He's got it down. But a bit different from the character of Perot. From I've only read one Perot book, you know, disclaimer. But Jules de Grandin was much more pulpy, and he can transform himself instantly into a super pulp hero right away. Yeah, and so Jules de Grandin was visiting Harrisonville when he ran into Dr. Trowbridge for their first adventure, which involved a gorilla, a mad gorilla. And he had several other adventures with Dr. Trowbridge. The second adventure, I believe, Dr. Trowbridge met him abroad, but the first few stories, there are all these excuses to have Jules de Grandin come to Harrisonville. And eventually he's just living with Dr. Trowbridge. So they're just living together after a while, and there's no explanation. But, you know, before you guys get any funny ideas, it was purely platonic. So yeah, so they're living together, and they're, you know, having adventures. And Harrisonville seems to be a terrible, terrible, terrible place to live. Because every kind of supernatural menace or monster or ghost or anything centered in Harrisonville. You go to Harrisonville, you're bound to run into some sort of spectral awfulness. And so Jules de Grandin, he was actually pretty busy because he was based in Harrisonville. One adventure after another. I mean, Seabury Quinn pumped him out. Now, Seabury Quinn was an interesting guy. He was born December 1889, died neatly in December 1969. He was a lawyer, he was a journalist, and he became a very prolific pulp writer. The Jules de Grandin stories ran from 1925 to 1951. There were 90 stories about Jules de Grandin. And I was very happy when was this Nightshade Books? I think it is. Yeah, Nightshade Books came out with the hardcover set of his complete adventures. This is very glossy. So sorry about that. But yeah, this is the first volume, The Horror on the Links. The Horror on the Links was his first adventure. There's Jules de Grandin there on the cover. This is the second volume, The Devil's Rosary. Again, a great cover. There's a great set of covers on this complete set of the Seabury Quinn adventures. The third volume, The Dark Angel. And this is where you can see Seabury Quinn getting all pulped out with his machine gun there. He did that. He would transform himself just into a super pulp here, take no prisoners hero every once in a while. Yeah, he was cool that way. So there we go. The Dark Angel. And the fourth volume, A Rival from the Grave. And we got Dr. Trowbridge hanging out there. Yeah, so great stuff. The Rival from the Grave. Sorry about that glare. It's just that time of day over here at Stately Vaughan Manor. And finally, the last volume, Black Moon, which could be, and you always get all the critters down there. You got Dr. Trowbridge hanging out in the background, and there is Jules de Grandin looking about as cool as he can look with the skull in his hand. That's just a fantastic cover. And the adventures in this book are just as fantastic. So this is fun stuff. It's just pure fun, you know. It's one crazy supernatural adventure after the other. Sometimes they're not supernatural. Sometimes it's just a maniac, causing the trouble. But Jules de Grandin, he takes care of those maniacs too. And just a lot of over the top pulp adventure and danger. Pretty gruesome at times. Seabury Quinn kind of pushed the gruesome envelope, much more so than a lot of the other pulp writers that you'll come across. But he got away with it. Maybe it's because he was so popular. And of course, Seabury Quinn wrote a lot of stuff other than Jules de Grandin. I'm focusing on him because that's what he's remembered it for. But you will find other stories, a lot of other stories that he wrote. You'll find in some other anthologies. Those same critics I talked about earlier will be like, oh yeah, his other stories are all right, as long as you stay away from that Jules de Grandin. I actually do recommend these books. If you ever get a chance to pick them up, I think they're on Kindle, but I think they're expensive on Kindle too, the last time I checked. So you might as well get a regular physical copy if you can. Good stuff. I do recommend them. They're a lot of fun. And nothing's quite as fun as pulp fun, you know. So, thank you for joining me once again and listening to me go on about Seabury Quinn. And I will see you again, probably Sunday. I will have my surprise Sunday Penguin once again on Sunday. This one I probably will be filming at the Rustic Von Lodge is where I'll be probably this weekend. That's the plan, which means the video will go up a little bit late, you know. But it'll go up on Sunday, the Sunday Penguin. So I will see you then at the Rustic Von Lodge, probably. All right, guys. Thanks so much.